811 centers across Nigeria. WAEC in crisis with result errors due to technical glitches. Ibadan market ordered to close as Olubadan is buried. On a foreign news, Ghana probes helicopter crash that killed 2 ministers. And in sport, ruthless fraudsters scam football fans out of £2.8 million. Those are our top stories. Details coming up now. The Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency NIHSA has warned of flooding in certain parts of the country, including Lagos, Rivers, the FCT, and 28 other states. In a flood alert issued on Thursday, NIHSA said the alert followed rising river levels and persistent rainfall across the country. Agency's Director General Umar Ibrahim cautioned of high to very high flood risks between August 7 and August 21. It listed the affected states to include Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo, FCT, Gombe, Imo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, and Nasarawa. Others, it said, are Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, and Zamfara. A total of 198 LGAs and 832 communities fall within the projected flood impact zone, NIHSA said. Possible disruption of major transportation routes is anticipated, NIHSA stated, citing data from its color-coded flood risk map. The agency urged emergency management stakeholders to activate their response protocols and advised that evacuation plans be put in place for communities at risk. It also encouraged residents and stakeholders to follow its weekly state-level and community-specific forecasts and to stay informed via the NIHSA flood dashboard and official social media platforms. The latest advisory comes amid a warning by the Lagos state government for residents in parts of Lekki, Ikorodu, and Ajegunle areas of the state to relocate from lowlands to highlands to avoid being victims of flooding. With the 2027 general elections drawing closer, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's presidential ambition is reportedly shaping the internal structure of the African Democratic Congress ADC, while Peter Obi, the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, is said to be struggling for influence. Insiders within the ADC who spoke on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the matter alleged that Atiku financed efforts to take control of the party as a platform to challenge President Bola Tinubu in 2027. A party source disclosed that most of the ADC state chapters, zonal bodies, and even its national leadership were now largely aligned with Atiku. However, ADC Interim National Publicity Secretary Bolaji Abdullahi refuted claims that Atiku had taken over the coalition. He insisted that the group remained united in its objective to dislodge Tinubu and All Progressives Congress in the next election. Key figures within the ADC coalition, including 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Obi and former APC presidential aspirant Rotimi Amici, have openly expressed interest in contesting the 2027 presidential election against President Tinubu. PDP 2023 presidential candidate and ex-VP Atiku also hinted at launching another bid for the presidency. Record that on July 3, ADC's 2023 presidential candidate Dumebi Kachuku accused the David Mark-led interim ADC leadership of plotting Atiku candidacy. Recently, on August 4, a leaked memo from the Obedient Movement to Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi raised concerns about the alleged sidelining of its members from ADC's major decision-making processes. In a document dated July 29, 2025, and signed by the national coordinator of the Obedient Movement, Atiku Yunusa, Obi's group accused the coalition of marginalizing its members despite their pivotal role in strengthening the political bloc. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says it continues voter registration (CVR) will hold in 811 centers across the 36 states and Federal Capital Territory (FCT). Sam Olumekun, INEC National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, disclosed this in a statement issued after the Commission's regular meeting in Abuja. Olumekun stated that for easy identification, INEC will be deploying an online CVR live locator to assist citizens locate their registration centers nationwide. He noted that, as earlier announced by the INEC, the CVR will resume on August 18 with the online pre-registration, while the in-person registration option will follow a week later on August 25. Olumekun added that the Commission on Thursday uploaded a 38-page document to its website and other official online platforms indicating the addresses of 811 in-person registration centers nationwide. The National Commissioner also disclosed that after the July 23 updates on requests for party registration, the Commission had received 8 more letters of intent from associations seeking registration as political parties. This, according to him, brought the number received so far to 151. He noted that details of the latest request indicating the proposed names, acronyms, logos, addresses and interim leadership of the associations had also been uploaded to the Commission website and other online platforms for public information. There was outrage after the West African Examination Council (WAEC) denied candidates access to its result portal for the 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination for school candidates following technical glitches. A statement by the head of Public Affairs WAEC National Office, Muyoshola Adesina, disclosed that the council identified bugs in its result system following a post-release review of the 2025 WASC result, which led to the access denial. The council said access to the result checker portal had been temporarily suspended, urging candidates who had previously checked their result to recheck from Friday for the updated versions. While defending its serialization method for mathematics, English language, biology and economics, WAEC admitted that post-release quality checks exposed technical glitches in its back-end systems. WAEC in a statement says the council, being a responsive body that is sensitive to fairness and professionalism, has decided to urgently review and correct the technical glitches that led to the situation. As a result, access to the WAEC and to the WASC SC 2025 result has been temporarily denied on the results checker portal. Thursday's clarification came less than 24 hours after WAEC, via its official X handle, declared a temporary shutdown of its result portal, citing technical issues. The council has been under intense scrutiny since Monday, when the head of National Office, Amos Dangot, revealed that only 38.32% of the 1,996,313 candidates who sat for the 2025 WASC obtained credits and above in 5 subjects, including English language and mathematics. The figure, the worst in a decade, sparked widespread concerns among stakeholders about the state of education, increasing exam malpractice, and readiness for a full digital transition in the conduct of national examinations. All markets in Ibadan land were ordered closed on Friday morning as the late Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Owolabi Olakuleyin, is buried. Oba Olakuleyin, the 43rd Olubadan, died on July 7, 2025, 2 days after his 90th birthday. He will be buried today, August 8, at the St. Peter's Cathedral, Aremo, Ibadan. The Babaloja General of Oyo State, Alhaji Yakin Abbas, in a statement directed that all markets be shut from 5 p.m. to 12 noon on Friday to honor the departed monarch. The closure, according to Abbas, was to pay last respect to the revered traditional ruler who, he said, diligently served the country, the state, and most importantly, Ibadan land. Meanwhile, the final burial ceremony began on Thursday with a line stage at the historic Mapo Hall in Ibadan Southeast local government area. Present at the solemn ceremony were members of the Central Council of Ibadan, indigenous mogajis, that's family heads, religious leaders, both Christian and Muslim, traditional worshippers, and other dignitaries. The special advisor to Governor Seyi Makinde on interfaith affairs, Femi Ibikunle, described the late Olubadan as an astute and articulate traditional ruler. Also speaking, the president of the Ibadan Mogajis, Chief Asimiyu Oriori, has said that the late monarch lived a meritorious life, leaving an indelible impact on Ibadan land. You are currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on the Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment. If you're just tuning in, this is the World News of 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We have Barrister Tunde Kolawole, a legal practitioner and current affairs analyst, joining us on the news to help analyze our news item. Barrister Kolawole, thank you for joining us on the news. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, my brother, and good afternoon to all the good people of Lagos listening to us.
Okay, let's quickly go to the first topic for discussion, which is, obviously the season we're in, where the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, NIHSA, has warned of flooding in certain parts of the country, including Lagos, Rivers, the FCT, and 28 other states. What do you think of the situation when you notice floods in many parts of the country, including Lagos?
Well, honestly speaking, when I read those stories and what came to my mind, contrary to what Mr. Donald Trump is saying, is that the climate change is a reality. And it is something that we must all prepare for if we don't want to find ourselves wanting. So, and honestly speaking, there is very little that the government can do and the individual can do when it comes to controlling some of these this perennial flooding that we see all over the country. It is not Nigeria alone. There has been flooding in the US, where ordinarily they used not to be flood. In France, as we are talking, they are trying to put out a blaze, a fire, which has burnt so many regions in France. In fact, they were equating that the portion that has been burnt is bigger than the whole of the Paris region as a whole. So, what we will encourage our people to do, on what the government should encourage, is that we should manage our waste disposal very properly. The government too can begin to create artificial canals where there are none. And then you will remember, there is a dam in Cameroon that when it is open, there is usually flooding along the River Niger, River Benue corridor. It has been suggested long before now, just like the Lagos Sokoto, just like the Lagos Calabar highway that the present government is doing. It's been suggested so many years ago that we need to create an artificial canal so that when the dam in Cameroon is opened, whatever water comes from there will flow into this artificial canal, and it can be used for irrigation and some other agricultural purposes in the future. So that is what we should be looking at. It is also possible for us as a people to channelize or to open up River Niger, River Benue, widen them and all that, so that we could begin to even use those two rivers properly in terms of navigation, in terms of putting both canoes and ships over there. And of course, like it's been done in China, we can also channel some of these flood waters to some of the lesser rivers that we have in the country, so that the water reservoir in those rivers and all that can also be boosted, and then the rivers, the waters in them can also be used for agricultural purposes and some other purposes. So we must also pay serious attention to the climate change that is taking place all over the world, so that we will not be caught napping. Just last week or thereabout, the chair or the Director General of the Climate Change Office was replaced by somebody else. Let's hope that there is continuity in that area, that wherever that woman who has just been removed and left off, the person coming will pick up from there and rev up whatever activities that are in those, that are maybe taking place in the climate office.
There have been destructions, properties damaged, lives lost, communities razed. There's supposed to be preventative measures in place because we know climate, as you've rightly mentioned, climate change, and we know some of these countries and some of these communities that are prone to flooding thanks to NIMET forecast. And the Lagos state government, brought out an advisory some days ago where he advised some places in Lagos, residents of some places in Lagos, Lekki, Korodu, and some areas in Ajegunle to relocate to highlands, from lowlands rather to highlands. Well, the question is, where do they relocate to? Where are the temporary shelters put in place by the government where these people can, reside temporarily? Where are the islands? Where on the highlands should they relocate to? That's the question. Preventative measures here is what we're talking about.
Well said. That's a very good one. I totally agree with you and what have you. I used to also think that there are so many measures we could have put in place that will ameliorate whatever suffering that people may be going through when there is this kind of flooding. Remember, not too long ago, there was heavy flooding in Niger State, one of the communities in Niger State, and so many people died. So many houses were submerged and then destroyed. We should have learned some lessons from there. But when you look even at the advanced countries of the world, like France, like US, and even Spain and some of these other places and all that, it's really difficult to control flood water. The difference over there is that when these rains are coming, when there's going to be flooding, when there's going to be earthquake and what have you, they have a way of monitoring those things. They have equipment to get whatever information they require to know whether there's going to be flooding, whether there's going to be rain and what have you. I think we should also begin to invest those technologies so that the meteorological office could make accurate prediction as regards where flooding is likely to take place and what to do when it does occur. And then the Environmental Protection Agency of this rescue team all over the place and all that. Should they have a standby measures, a program in terms of vehicles to evacuate people, in terms of places to take the people to when you evacuate. As of today, we don't have too many of those places. But temporarily, we can use schools, we can use town halls, we can use premises of churches and what have you, premises of mosque and what have you, to evacuate the people to, because some of this is going to be short term, not in the long run. When you look at it very critically and what have you. And of course, too, we should make plans for what people will eat and what they will drink when they get those places. In some other countries of the world, and it has happened in Nigeria before, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency will provide people with mattresses, they provide them with blankets, they provide them with water and what have you. We should continue to invest in this area so that we are not caught napping when things like this happen. But too many times, even when our people are given alert as regards when some of these things will happen, they hardly will abide by, they hardly read whatever alert the government or the authorities are giving to them, believing that it will most likely not occur or affect them.
But that's where government comes in to ensure compliance.
Exactly. But you see, even in the advanced countries of the world, when they give such an alert, some people, no matter the level, they will still refuse to move. Some will say they move, their houses may have been looted by the time to come back. Some will say they have an emotional attachment to the house. Some will even say they want to pray that the thing doesn't affect their properties and then their house and water. And when they do this, find out too many times they get caught in the inferno, they get caught in the flood, and then they are swept away and what have you. Government can really not force people. Government by law cannot force people to relocate. If you are giving them a lot and then they refuse to relocate, you can sensitize them, you can educate them, you can also let them know the peril of reducing to adhere to whatever government instructions and suggestions and then evacuation brief people may have been given. It's a very, very difficult one.
Okay, let's go over to politics now, where the 2027 general election drawing closer. I mean, it's still 2 years, but the way campaigns and, political chess games are going now, it's as if it's in a few weeks' time. But be it as it may, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is shaping the internal structure according to a report of the ADC, while Peter Obi, the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, is said to be struggling for influence according to insiders, with the information that Atiku Abubakar is having more control of the ADC compared to Peter Obi, that increasingly becoming more of someone outside looking in. One maybe tempted to wonder, what were the agreements put in place before some of these political bigwigs decide to join the coalition? That's a huge question.
Well, we are not insiders, so it is very, very difficult for us to proceed or to say what agreement may have been put in place between all these sets of federal affairs of between these strange fellows.
The questions will be more directed to Peter Obi, because we all know how ambitious Atiku Abubakar is, and one of the reasons why he left the PDP was because of it was increasingly looking more like Atiku will have the ticket of the PDP, was why he left the Labour Party. And then when we tended to wonder, why do you think Atiku will leave the ticket for you in ADC, especially when it's been financed by ADC, if being financed rather by him, that's the coalition, that's if information we're getting is anything to go by. What was he thinking? What was he expecting or hoping to get out of the coalition? One may be tempted to wonder.
When what Atiku Abubakar is doing should be expected. He is a veteran of so many political battles, if not wars. Also remember that this may be the last chance the last opportunity that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar might be having to contest the presidency and probably win it.
Politicians are very optimistic persons. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. For Mr. Peter Obi, with due regards to him, he doesn't have the kind of experience that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has. Secondly,
despite the clouds he got ahead of the 2023 election.
Well, you see, I say this, a lot of forces propelled Mr. Peter's performance during the 2023 election.
And you think those forces are sleeping?
No, they are overstated. No longer as potent as they used to be. Remember, we had this NSAS in which so many Nigerian youth and children were very angry with the authorities. We also had so many momentum that propelled Peter Obi for. That momentum that the youth used to propel Peter Obi forward and all that is no longer there. That is the truth about the matter.
Are you sure that? Because that's not what indications are saying right now. I mean, people are as angry now, especially with the economic situation. People are hungry. Lots of youth there are no jobs. I mean, the situation now is even worse than it was then. That's why people dying during the NSAS.
Well, if my experience is anything to go by, what I've observed is anything to go by, it doesn't appear to me that hunger will ever propel the average Nigerian, the ordinary man, influence whatever voting pattern.
That's a good point there. That's a good point.
Yes.
I mean, religion and ethnicity is a very strong factor.
And then vote buying. And then too, if you look at Peter Obi, if you look at Atiku Abubakar, if you look at the APC people and other, what difference is there between them? The average Nigerian person or ordinary person and all that doesn't see any difference between all those two people. I mean, all those different divides and camps in the political arena. And the belief is that once they all get there, they begin to do the same thing. So why don't you get paid for your votes now and then forget whatever they may do when they get to power? When you are not a show who will be preaching about revolution. So, furthermore, you should remember that even within the APC now, so many moles, so many agents progressives, so many people who elect that party have been planted in the midst of that party, and they are in very strategic position that will be very difficult to deploy. Look at what happened to the Labour Party. As soon as the Labour Party finished the last election and other, all manners of centrifugal and divisive forces went into that party, and that party has not been able to settle down ever since then. If Peter Obi was going to have a very good platform to contest and other, he should have devoted a considerable amount of energy and resources to really ensure that the Labour Party does not disintegrate, and the Labour Party begin to work stronger than it is now. He should have been able to pick out spell or get out, identify the most in the Labour Party, and later prosecutor that have been put in there to really destroy the party and what have you. But he has let the party be. He doesn't appear to show much concern about the health of the Labour Party and all that. And that may be his battle come 2027. I don't see Atiku using grant to him with regards to who is going to carry the presidential flag of the present political party. And when you also look at the average, the majority of the people from the north who were instrumental to the formation of that party, they are not talking about constituents, or they may not willingly concede the presidency to Peter Obi. They are talking about all the injuries that the north has suffered since the present APC government, or since the APC came into power. So if that's their mindset, if that is what they are thinking about and all that, I'm not too sure they will hand over the presidency of that party to Peter Obi on a platter of gold. In fact, it will be an Herculean task for him to be able to get it. Unfortunately, the Labour Party that you could use as a platform has also been wrecked They break the Labour Party. So,
the man is in the pickle.
He is absolutely. Except a miracle happen. Look at some of the people that he put in strategic places, like Tony Okupe. Immediately the election finished, Tony Okupe went back to the old camp that he used to belong to. I won't mention it. There's also somebody who was put in a very strategic place in that Labour Party, was very vocal when he was there. Immediately he finished, he's back in Afenifere. He's now talking about Afenifere politics and what have you. These were characters that Peter Obi never tried to study and know what they were up to before they put them in very strategic places in the Labour Party. And there are still so many other persons in the Labour Party today that they have not been able to approve who would dictate who gets the party ticket and who doesn't get it. And if they are able to decide, they will wreck the party rather than allow Peter Obi to use as a very viable platform.
So if Peter Obi does decide to pull out of the coalition and of course goes with a large chunk, that's the obedience movement, do you think Atiku, with the other, strong people remaining in the party, do you think he'll be able to put on a good fight against the incumbent, President Bola Tinubu? Do you think so?
You mean Peter Obi or the Atiku?
No. If Peter Obi does decide to pull out of the coalition, leaving Atiku Abubakar alone with the ADC and some of the other big wigs at the party, do you think he'll be able to put on the fight against the APC and Tinubu?
I am sorry to say, with due regard to him, it may already be too late for him to put up
any fight,
any
sort of challenge.
It's almost very too late. One, you need enormous resources, which the APC has, and which Atiku Abubakar and his coalition, his inner circles do have.
Atiku do have lots of resources. He has the money.
Exactly,
not as rich as Tinubu, obviously, but he can put on a fight financially with Tinubu.
Even though it may not be as rich as the APC or the president and what have you, the kind of fight that we see coming up, especially given the posture of the northern people and what have you, is that most of them, once people emerges as the presidential flag bearer of that party, most very strong candidates in the north are very influential people and very wealthy people. They might be investing their resources on Atiku Abubakar.
With all that, can he put up a challenge for Tinubu and APC?
You mean Obi Abi?
No, Atiku, yes.
Certainly he could. The mistake he made this last time was the deputy. He's a deputy that he picked from Delta State.
Sidelining Wiki.
If he had been able to manage Wiki, if he had been able to manage him and had picked him, the battle line may have been different. In that Wiki is a grassroots mobilizer, and then he also has his own stupendous resources that he could deploy and what have you. You remember when Abiola had similar challenge that Atiku Abubakar had, a lot of people advised Abiola not to make a King debate. He's a running mate and what have you. During that last election that Abiola was said to have won and all that, Abiola said one thing, and he's a man of wisdom. He said, look, he will rather hold on to the horns of the ram, to the head of the ram, and start pursuing the ram from his tail. If Atiku Abubakar has a patient with a wicket and then try to manage him and what have you, he may have had a better showing during the last.
And you think the APC and Tinubu wouldn't have learned some of their mistake by giving Atiku even a glimmer of chance?
That is the truth. Give it to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He, like Atiku Abubakar, is also a veteran of so many political parties,
and then some people also think if Peter Obi and Atiku part ways, the vote may be splitted, which will also favor APC.
Of course, absolutely. In fact, the APC and Mr. President started preparing for 2007. Immediately, they won the last election and war as well. They started preparing for it. Look at all the governors, all the senators and all that are now crossing over to the APC. Do you think that those things started just yesterday or 2 weeks ago or 1 month ago? Some of these lobbying and maneuvers started immediately the last election was lost and won. The crossing over all the strong support that he got from Wike, for example, is the bandwagon of what we are seeing happening now.
So what if Peter Obi, also unlikely, but what if Peter Obi decide to submit and say, okay, let me be vice president to Atiku? Do you think that will happen? And if it does happen, do you think they both have a chance against the APC? I mean, now we're talking about Peter Obi and Atiku joining resources together, and Peter Obi decide to say, okay, well, let me just be vice president, and then when it's my turn, you now back me up.
In my humble opinion, I should think that is his best bet. That is his best bet. But that is predicated on the fact that the PDP people don't drag Dr. Goodluck Jonathan into contesting the 2007 election, because if Dr. Goodluck Jonathan should contest the next election, 2007 election and all that, he will also be splitting the vote that Mr. Peter Obi could have in the southeast and in the south, because that is Dr. Goodluck Jonathan's domain as well. And if that happens and all that, then the APC may see have an edge over them.
I mean, if Jonathan comes in, I think it will further even split the vote, because
exactly.
Thereby giving even APC even more chance.
Exactly.
You think it's a good idea for Goodluck Jonathan to come into the fray?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because some political commentators have said he'll be messed up if he comes into the fray.
They would demystify him, and then some people may be thinking he has loads of money start somewhere, and then they want to help themselves to some of those money, because consider don't do anything in the vacuum or for nothing. It's for the purpose. They think the man has money and they want to take part of it. They have a bite out of his money. He's now become an international person. He's getting appointment from United Nations, from OAU and World.
And he should just remain there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So because if you come in and they demystify him, that may lead to something else.
Okay, let's quickly go to the last topic for discussion, just in 2 minutes. WAEC, they're having issues. I mean, there was outrage where candidates were denied access to his result portal for the 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination. WAEC have been having some issues for a while now, with outrage from parents and teachers. And what do you think is going on?
Honestly speaking, these new technologies that we have deployed for conducting examinations at the different tiers of education, universities, secondary schools, and all that. It's not a technology that we have really mastered and all that. And there are not too many experts who could quickly come in to rectify whatever glitches may occur.
Why is that such a difficult task? I mean, we're in 2025 and we have lots of IT geniuses in Nigeria. Why is it so difficult to employ those people to solve this problem? Besides, obviously, man, no man, and
I agree, but there are not enough IT personnel in Nigeria. There are not enough.
Oh, there are lots of Gen Zs. There are. The problem. Most of them are employing 40-something-year-old people.
My brother, let's look at it this way. In the area of IT, as you are mastering one terrain, new technologies are also coming up. Look at artificial intelligence now. Do we have enough people in the area of artificial intelligence in this country now?
Lots of young people, yes. People in their 20s. People in their 20s,
no,
yes.
We don't. Look, a country in which about 2 million people will sit for JAMB on a yearly basis, in which 2 million will sit for WAEC on a yearly basis, in which the universities with the huge number that we have in those places and other. Don't you remember? It is the same platform that they share for some of these things. You are depending on MTN, you are depending on Starlink, you are depending on Airtel, you are depending on some of these private internet providers and what have you. The market is huge, the population is very, very huge, and the demand is a present. And then you must remember, this IT we are talking about, you have computer maintenance involved in it, you have artificial intelligence, you have a transmission of some of this data and what have you. So anywhere is there parties to manage to mine all those places and what have you. You may be thinking that because there are a pocket of geniuses here and there, then they will have the capacity to do some of those things. Even the software that we are deploying, are we the manufacturer, are we the makers of those software and other? We merely buy those software from different software manufacturers or makers and
we have coders. We have coders in Nigeria. We have coders in Nigeria, actually. Nigerians that are coders.
If you say that, why is it that even bank platform collapses in this country?
I think it's nepotism. It's a matter of
No, I don't think so. There are not enough expertise. There might be nepotism because you see, in the area of technology, people use technology, hardly use nepotism to employ people because nepotism will not confer the expertise that you require to be able to handle some of those platforms on you. You must know. If you don't know it, there's nothing you can do about it. Hardly use nepotism to employ IT technology. And when you have a case in court, a very serious case and what have you, do Nigerians use nepotism to hire a lawyer? They will not do that because they know if they lose the case, that the consequences could be paid. They look for the best hands to do some of those things and what happens. The truth of the matter is that we don't have enough expertise in this country to really be able to stay on top of some of this. But even if you have, look at a place like China. They conduct university examinations and all that, and then there will be glitches. The platform will collapse. They will have to redo it again. It has happened in the UK. It happens in Britain and what happens. Are we saying that those people don't have enough hands or don't have the resources and what happens? Technology is a very slippery terrain and what have you. That anything can happen and then you find yourself not being able to get on top of this thing. Why do aeroplanes fall from the sky? Why do ships get wrecked? Why do satellites in the air malfunctions and what? So why do we put a vehicle on the road that when we started the engine there are no problems, and as far as we hit the road, the engine begins to develop problems and giving us issues and what have you. So I would say we still need to develop and then train more people in the area of technology and IT generally, and then also begin to encourage our people to develop some of these software that are deployed on some of these platforms. But when you buy those software and what have you, it is food you are putting on the table of the Chinese people, on the table of the India, and the table of Britain, Netherlands, and what have you. Who develop some of these software?
Okay, thank you very much, Bola Barrister Kolawole. It's always a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. I wish you thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's Tunde Kolawole, a legal practitioner and a current affairs analyst. And for a quick look at what's happening outside Nigeria, Ghana has launched a full investigation into a military helicopter crash that killed the country's defense and environment ministers and 6 other people. President John Mahama has announced. The defense minister Edward Omane Boama Environment Minister Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed and 6 other people, including senior political figures and the Air Force crew, died in a crash on Wednesday. The Ghana Armed Forces has initiated a full and transparent investigation into the circumstances of this crash, Mohammed said in a televised address. He said the flight data and cockpit voice recorded have been recovered, and a special board of inquiry has been set up to investigate the cause of the crash. The Air Force chopper disappeared from radars shortly after departing Accra en route to Obuasi in southern Ghana. All 8 bodies have been recovered and a state funeral will be held on August 15, said Mahama. Mahama has suspended all scheduled activities for the rest of the week and declared 3 days of mourning starting Thursday, with all flags to be flown at half-mast. The United States doubled its bounty on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who faced federal drug trafficking charges, to $50 million, a move Caracas described as pathetic and ridiculous. Washington, which does not recognize Maduro's past 2 election victories, accuses the South African country's leader of leading a cocaine trafficking gang. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi made the announcement on social media. The previous bounty was set in January at $25 million. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jovan Gil said Bondi's pathetic bounty was the most ridiculous smokescreen we have ever seen. In 2020, during President Donald Trump's first term in office, Maduro and other high-ranking Venezuelan officials were indicted on federal court in New York on several charges, including participating in a narco-terrorism conspiracy. The Justice Department accused Maduro of leading a cocaine trafficking gang called the Cartel of Suns and shipped hundreds of tons of narcotics into the United States over 2 decades, earning hundreds of millions of dollars. Investigators say the cartel worked hand in hand with the rebel Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, which the United States has labeled a terrorist organization. Bondi said Maduro also worked with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua and Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. And on to sport, football fans are being urged to beware of ruthless fraudsters when buying match tickets online, after a study showed an estimated £2.5 million had been lost to scammers in the past 2 years. Lloyds Bank estimates at least 12,000 supporters have fallen victims to ticket fraud across the past 2 campaigns, with their own customers losing around £500,000. When extrapolated nationwide, it estimated that more than £2.5 million has been lost to ticket scammers. The Stop Think Fraud campaign external has been established to raise awareness of online purchase scams, which tend to offer match tickets for sold-out matches and often at discounted prices. Lord Hanson, the Minister of Fraud, says supporters should only buy directly from clubs, their official partners and legitimate resale outlets. Liverpool supporters were the most likely to be targeted, followed by fans of Arsenal, Manchester United and Chelsea. Supporters aged 25 to 34 were the most frequent victims of ticket scams, making up 28% of cases, followed by those aged 18 to 24 with 26%. And that's the news. But before we go, here again are our top stories. Federal government warns of flooding in Lagos, FCT, Rivers and 28 other states. ADC quoting Crossfire as Atiku Obi rivalry escalates ahead 2027. INEC to hold continuous voter registration in 811 centers across Nigeria. WAEC in crisis with result errors due to technical glitches. Olubadan market ordered to close as Olubadan is buried. On a foreign news, Ghana probes helicopter crash that killed 2 ministers. And in sport, ruthless fraudsters scam football fans out of $2.5 million. And that's the World News at 12. I am Solomon of FM. Do follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at VOP903FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.